They said Biden was going to drop out the race this weekend, and it happened. Just minutes ago, the president shared this letter with Americans. He said, "My fellow Americans, over the past 3.5 years, we have made great progress as a nation. Today, America has the strongest economy in the world. We've made historic investments in rebuilding our nation and lowering prescription drug costs for seniors and in expanding affordable health care to a record number of Americans. We've provided critically needed care to 1 million veterans exposed to toxic substances, passed the first gun safety law in 30 years, appointed the first African-American woman to the Supreme Court, and passed the most significant climate legislation in the history of the world. America has never been better positioned to lead than we are today. I know none of this could have been done without you, the American people. Together we overcame a once-in-a-century pandemic and the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. We've protected and preserved our democracy, and we've revitalized and strengthened our alliances around the world. It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president, and while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term."
You know, even though I respect Joe Biden for stepping down as president, and look, I'm not trying to hate on the guy, him or Trump or anybody. I don't care who gets in office. So all I care about is America becoming great again, because for the last 4 years, it's been nothing but chaos, and pedophiles being defended by weirdos, and OnlyFans have gotten a lot worse. A lot of relationships have been destroyed by OnlyFans and porn because of feminism. Not only that, but although I do appreciate some things he's done in America, but not all of them are really that great. With the gun law, safety, people are still being killed right here, left and right. Gun violence has gotten worse, and nothing has changed in my eyes. And yes, there are some good things that came with his presidency, like having the first black female judge in the Supreme Court. So he's pretty much making some good things about America, but at some point, at what cost though? Because Joe Biden, I feel like he's known for slurring his words a lot. He can't even say a straight sentence without messing up his words, and he basically was falling down the stairs, and he has COVID now, so he's pretty much at a point where he needs to focus on his family and his health, and his son is 10 times worse than him. I mean, come on.
In more detail about my decision. For now, let me express my deepest gratitude to all those who have worked so hard to see me reelected. I want to thank Vice President Kamala Harris for being an extraordinary partner in all this work, and let me express my heartfelt appreciation to the American people for the faith and trust you have placed in me. I believe today what I always have, that there is nothing America can't do when we do it together. We just have to remember we are the United States of America. Signed, Joe Biden.
Not really.
So after all the rumors and the tremendous amount of pressure coming from top Democrats for Biden to step out the race, they said he had C-19 this week, and now just a couple of days later, he's dropping out the race.
Good afternoon. I'm Rachel Scott at ABC headquarters here in New York. We are coming on the air at this hour with breaking news. President Biden has just announced that he is ending his re-election bid. Just moments ago, the president tweeted out, "It has been the greatest honor of my life to serve as your president. And while it has been my intention to seek re-election, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. I will speak to the nation later this week in more detail about my decision." There are still so many questions yet to be decided, and so little time before those questions need to be figured out. So I want to go right away to our chief Washington correspondent, John Carl. John, we are just 100 days out from the November election. Pressure was building on the president to step aside. Now he is announcing that he has.
Rachel, it's an extraordinary moment in American history. This is the first time we have seen a sitting president bow out of re-election since Lyndon Baines Johnson in 1968. And it comes, unlike Johnson's move, which happened in January of that year, it comes after he has already gone through a primary process, after he has already effectively won the Democratic nomination, which now raises the huge questions, as you allude to.
Like I said in the past, I don't really care about this whole political party between the left and the right because it's pretty much brought out the worst out of people. And the only person that I'm voting for this year is my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ himself. I will always stay true to what I say, and I'm not going to change my mind over it because I don't want to vote for somebody that I can't trust.
Announcing this extraordinary decision, he mentions his vice president, Kamala Harris. He says, I want to thank my vice president, Kamala Harris, for being an extraordinary partner. But he makes no reference about what he will do in terms of an endorsement. Will he endorse? Will he not endorse? Will there be an open process? What happens next? He says he will talk to the nation in the coming days more about his decision. But now the Democrats have to figure out what happens. Who replaces Joe Biden as the Democratic candidate for president?
Well, it didn't take too long. President Biden came out and he endorsed his vice president, Kamala Harris. A lot of people wondering, is Kamala Harris going to be the next president of the United States?
I'm not voting for her.
These rapidly moving developments. First, we had the letter from...
Not trying to be funny and no disrespect to Kamala Harris, but I'm not voting for her because the same thing that had a bad result with Hillary Clinton when she was in the presidential race campaign in 2016. Everybody voted for her, but unfortunately the results came out negative. So I think the same might happen with Kamala Harris when she ends up getting into this race. But the thing about Kamala Harris is that she's not really want to get into it, but it's a lot of personal stuff in my head that I'm trying to say, but I don't want to say it on here.
In this race, now we are seeing yet another post on social media from President Biden, because the big question after the president announced that he was going to step aside in this race was who exactly was going to step in. Mary Bruce, it seems like the president has an answer to that question on who he's endorsing here.
Rachel, the president, in a tweet just announcing that he is offering his full support and endorsement for Kamala Harris to be the nominee of the party. I want to read this full message from him. He says, my fellow Democrats, I've decided not to accept the nomination to focus all my energies on my duties as president for the remainder of my term. He says, my very first decision as the party nominee in 2020 was to pick Kamala Harris as my vice president, and it's been the best decision I've made. He says, today I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year. Democrats, he says, it's time to come together and beat Trump. Let's do this. The president has always made clear, Rachel, that he believes that Kamala Harris has what it takes to be president.
You see what I'm saying? Do you see exactly what I'm talking about? Both parties are designed to hate one another. I don't want to vote this year because I've seen how much it brought out the ugliness out of people. This is why I don't watch the news. I don't watch CNN because I just don't like political stuff. I would rather focus on studying things that I'm interested in, not some stuff like this, because if we're going to continue to go to war and fighting and arguing over about Trump or Biden or Harris, somebody gets in office, it's like it's going to be the same issues over and over again. I mean, it was like that song that Tupac made, you know, it's the way it is. And there was a part in the song where he says that he sees no change. And that's exactly what I'm seeing. No change.
But we have seen sort of an interesting change in the way he's talked about Kamala Harris, even in the last 2 weeks. It was just 5 days ago, I think. He was out in Las Vegas doing a big event before the NAACP, and he took on Trump, especially in the way that Trump has been reaching out to black voters. And he took on the way that Trump had once used the phrase, black jobs. And the president made this quip, this joke, not joke. He was fired back at Trump saying, I know what a black job is. It is vice president. And he said, point blank, Kamala Harris could be president. And he said it in a way that made all of our ears go up.
I don't see it.
Everyone listen closely, because it is clear that he likely was thinking about what would happen if we got to this point where he had finally decided, Joe Biden decided that he needed to step aside and step out of this race. And now he is throwing his full weight and support behind Kamala Harris. It sends a huge message, especially to this party, about where we are going now, especially with such little time left in this race.
Yes, and Mary, it's not just what the president has been saying, it's also what Vice President Kamala Harris has been doing.
Yeah,
we saw her in the days after that event really start to concentrate on rallying black voters. We know they are the bedrock of the Democratic base. What have you seen in the days following that debate, as well as the vice president really trying to concentrate in on the core of the Democratic base?
Rachel, she has been out there working the trail hard. She has been crisscrossing this country, and she has been, especially as you noted, really trying to rally those key constituencies where so much of this election is going to come down to. The Biden-Harris ticket has been very well aware that, especially among black voters, especially young black men, they are seeing signs in the polls that support is flipping.
Not me.
She has been out there, trying to get their message across to the voters who will really decide this race in November. But this entire time, Rachel, she has been a very loyal soldier. She has been adamant that they were still in this to win it. She has shown zero daylight between her and the president, as the president has been, clearly taking all of this in and trying to make this decision. Vice President Harris now catapulted to the top of the ticket. It is a remarkable, historic turn of events in the political history of this country.
Go ahead and let me know what you think about this below. What do you think about the Democrats pushing President Biden out of the election? And do you think Kamala Harris can beat Donald Trump?
No.
Go ahead and sound.
Like I said, I have respect for Joe Biden for stepping down in order to take care of his health. And like I said, he has done some good things in America. Some. But not all. But as far as like Harris goes, I don't see her beating anybody who is running against her. Like I said, I don't know if I'm going to be voting this year, because I don't like getting into political stuff, because it brings something ugly out of people. And yeah, like I said, I would rather vote for Jesus Christ, because he is my Lord and Savior. He is my president. So yeah, what's your thoughts on this? Link to the original video will be down below.